So I started looking at a couple of the ideas that Joanna had, and we got in touch with John Brown of Oasis Senior Advisors. It seemed like a perfect outfit to kick this series off because they have so many resources available to us. They work with seniors at no charge on a confidential basis to essentially go through the entire gamut of options available when it's time to leave home. Or if you can still stay at home but can't quite manage it all by yourself, then they know the folks who can help you age in place a little bit longer in your home. So that's the first one that we've come up with. And next month we'll hear from Westminster Manor, which is a pay for a stay place, and we'll hear from Brookdale as well. Westminster, you have to buy into. Brookdale, you rent. So those are two different business models. And then in the last meeting we have in April, John again is going to graciously said he would come back, and he's going to lead a panel discussion on 3 different kinds of home health care that are available to you. So John is eminently qualified for this. He has been through all the hoops himself with his own mother, and that led him to the point where he looked around and saw that nobody was doing this. So he got in touch with Oasis, which is a nationwide company, and set up a franchise here. I understand it. So with no further ado, John, it's all yours.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. Thank you for making it out today. I know the weather has been difficult these last few days. Hopefully nobody lost power or anything. So the topic for today is about senior living and the different types of senior living and when is it the right time to make those decisions. So I'm going to kind of use a little bit of a print guide that I have typed out for my notes. So I do a little bit of reading as first. So a little bit about me. I've lived in the Austin area since the early 80s. Came from San Antonio. My mother was diagnosed with dementia. I ended up being a full-time caregiver for her. She ended up living with us in a casita in the backyard overlooking the pool. And then the doctor kept saying, hey, it's time, it's time. And I was like, she's got the perfect setup. You know, we see her 3 times a day to do her diabetes check. She'll be fine. And then one day she put the TV dinner in the toaster oven and burned the casita. And so it was more than time. And that's kind of what we see a lot with people who are taking care of their loved ones or family members, is it happens so gradually, you don't see everything that's occurred. And so again, that was my story. That's how I landed up in this situation. At that point, I took an early retirement and decided to start Oasis. I have just a little bit more facts about me. I have 4 children, 2 grandchildren, beautiful wife, been married, probably the most compassionate person, 27 years. And like I said, been in Austin since the early 80s. I got here as fast as I could. So a little bit about Oasis Senior Advisors. We are a national corporation with offices all around the U.S. We are the only one in the industry with privacy protection built in. So our goal is always to help the family and then them tell us what they want to do. So we're not about, you know, selling any one particular thing. We're not pushing anything. We're looking for what are solutions and options out there that help you. So started out with myself back in 2016. I have 6 advisors, 2 marketers. So the advisors are the ones that sit down with you and help you navigate what's going on, what resources are out there, what communities match, those kind of things. They tour with you, everything they can do to help you with that process. The marketers are out in the community, learning about communities, learning about different businesses, learning about different senior resources, so that we know everything that's out there to help you. We've helped over 10,000 families navigate and discharge from different hospitals and different situations. You know, our big motto is one call, many solutions. We're all about offering compassionate care options, and we don't ever want a family or a senior to feel like they're alone. It's complicated, right? Everything as we age gets more and more complicated. So we don't want you to feel like you're alone on the journey. Couple of things about senior living and when you should consider a move. So first, it's about safety and security. So, you know, senior living offers secure surroundings, emergency support, and on-site staff in many cases, and just a peace of mind, and of course, the reduction of falls. Reduced burden, you know, who doesn't want to live on a cruise ship? Who doesn't want to have who wants to do chores, right? So, you know, maintenance-free living is what senior living is all about. And that allows you more time for your passions, your hobbies, and socializing. Social connections. Senior living is not like it used to be. Everybody thinks of a nursing home. These are vibrant communities with activities, clubs, events, and they foster belonging and combat loneliness. And all during COVID, that was always a big issue, and it still is. You know, isolating as we get older is actually the worst thing we can do. So if you know a senior that's not leaving their home often, not getting enough exercise, not getting a lot of social stimulation, it's time to at least talk. But that has been with COVID, we definitely saw a huge increase in the isolation and socialism, lack of social interactions. Easier care access, daily living assistance with tasks like dressing, bathing, medication management, and ensure that your needs get met. Well-being, boost your well-being by having communities have fitness programs, wellness activities, healthcare access on premise, as well as mental health and other services. Family peace of mind. So the families get a little bit of a sense of a relief when they know that their loved one is safe, engaged, and it reduces stress and worry on the families. Financial benefits. So there's some costs that can be comparable or even less than living at home. So that's always a big question. You know, everybody wants to stay in their home, and I'm just going to put it real straightforward. Where is home? Home is where we're happy, right? Home is where we feel comfort, and home is where we feel independent. So it really could be in a house. It could be in your home. It could be in an apartment. It could be in a senior living. But there's a cost scenario that always comes up as we age. And as you start to need help, whether it be like, I can't do the yard anymore, or I can't cook anymore, or I can't keep up with the housekeeping or the laundry, those are all incurring expenses. And so like I recently helped a family that was spending right at $700 a week on all their Grubhub purchases because they couldn't get out to get food. And so they were just, you know, using the apps. And then they were using apps for transportation, and they're using apps for this and that. And it starts to get very, very expensive. You know, you start bringing in the house cleaner, and you start bringing in the people to do your yard. It can get out of control really fast. And especially when you start needing home care. So when you start needing help with dressing and bathing and transferring, you really are starting to reach that point that you need to look at all your options. Again, communities offer passion to pursue. With daily chores managed, you have more time and energy for hobbies and personal fulfillment. Downsizing does create some freedom. So when you downsize, your simpler life, it's easier to manage, it's decluttered, and you can truly focus on what matters. And then having a community feeling, you know, here in the room, you have a community, you're part of the village. but at some point you might need other options. So you build friendships, you find belonging in a supportive environment with like-minded individuals. So that's some of the reasons people consider senior living. The hidden cost of at home we kind of went over was, yes, there is the mortgage, the rent, and that might seem cheaper, but you also have to remember the hidden costs like the maintenance, the utilities, the groceries, the transportation, and then bringing in the home care. Bundled services are in senior living. So as you start to need other things, a lot of them are already on premise. So a lot of communities will have home health on premise, home care on premise. They might have visiting physicians on premise. They might have exercise and yoga and different things like that. All things on premise to keep us moving, keep us active. And then there's varying levels of care. So costs within senior living communities can vary drastically depending on the level of care needed. While independent living is typically the most affordable option, while skilled nursing is generally considered the most expensive. And I'm going to go through kind of each one of those. So now let's talk about the different types of senior living. Remember, no one community has everything or can be everything for everyone. Every community has its own personality. Every community takes different care. Every community has different entrance requirements. So there's not one. Everybody's always asking, well, I just want one that has everything and can do everything. And it just doesn't exist. So even in the skilled nursing, not all of them can take the same patients. Even in rehab hospitals, some of them can't take the same patients. So that's really what makes the aging process so much more complicated, right? So we'll start with the simplest is, senior living apartments, the 55 plus or 62 plus. So those are just regular apartments. You sign 12-month lease or 14 or 16-month lease. They don't include meals. They don't include, housekeeping, things like that. A lot of them, when you step out of your apartment, it's just like, any other apartment. You're on the street or on a, balcony. So the pros is, pros and cons. I'm going to kind of give pros and cons on each is, it is cheaper, but it doesn't have any amenities usually. It is also more age appropriate. So you're around people your own age and you can connect with people and build your village. But they may not have many activities. So there's some pluses and cons. Concerning senior apartments, you have to remember with apartments, you always have to make 2 or 3 times the rent. So if I'm just giving an example, if you bring in $3,000 a month as your Social Security or your monthly income, then the most you can afford in senior apartments is between $1,000 and $1,500. Okay, so you always have to make 2 or 3 times the rent. And each community decides that on the apartments. After senior apartments, you have independent living communities. So a true independent living community will have maintenance-free living with additional services. You'll get like meals, housekeeping, transportation, and it's usually just like an apartment. So it can be a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. There's cottages, there's casitas, there's all kinds of stuff out there. But independent living will always include meals, light housekeeping, things like that, social activities. The pros, it's cheaper. It's one bill, it covers everything. A lot of them have home health, home care on premise. So if you do need a little help with bathing, you can schedule that and bring that in. They do a lot of social activities. They do transportation within a certain radius. They'll take you to doctor's appointments, Walmart, Target, things like that. They do a lot of outings, going to plays and wineries and out for steak and out for fish and barbecue. So that it's all about the quality of life. The big con is there's no care that is part of that building. They may have some on premise, but you're gonna have to pay for that to a different company, okay? So if they do have home care that comes into that building, you're gonna have the bill for your independent living, and then you're gonna have the bill for the care to a different provider. If you're in your home or in the senior apartment and you need care, you usually bring in care for dressing, bathing, transferring, house cleaning, things like that, meal preps. You buy that in 4-hour blocks. In Austin, the average price is $37 an hour. So if all you wanted was help with bathing, okay, like I just don't want to fall while I'm in the shower. I just want someone in the room while I, in the bedroom while I'm taking a shower. You'd have to pay for 4 hours of home care to come to your home. So it can get quite expensive quite easily. If you're in independent and they have it on premise, then you're only going to pay for what you use. So since they're already there, they'll come over to your apartment and they'll say, okay, I'm here. You want to go ahead and take your shower? I'll be over here. Maybe I'll be doing, cleaning your apartment. And while they're doing that, you take your shower, you're only paying for that 30 minutes or 15 minutes you're using. So you can save money that way. That's one of those ways by which you can save money. Independent living, for the most part, is month to month. A few communities are 90 days and 60 days. So if something changes, you just leave. You turn in your notice and leave. Whereas in an apartment, you've got to do your lease unless it becomes medically unsafe. And at that point, your doctor can do that.
You mentioned independent living provides meals.
Mm-hmm. It can be anywhere from 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day. Some of them do 3 meals a day.
We normally have really good chefs.
Yeah, a lot of them have really good chefs. And there's a lot of dessert, a lot of pastries. Anyway, so independent living, it's one of those things that if you're somebody who is alone and you're suffering from a little depression or isolation, or you can't get out as much as you used to because you're caring for a loved one, your spouse. Sometimes independent living will work. The biggie to remember is with independent living, you can only schedule care. You can only bring in care that can be scheduled. So if you need help with bathing or dressing, that can be scheduled. If it's incontinence or lifting, if somebody needs to lift your husband to get him to the toilet every time he needs to go, that can't be scheduled. He can't help it if he's got to go to the bathroom at 3:30 in the morning. That's where we say it's time to start talking about assisted living. So once you start having problems that require, to care when it occurs, that's time to talk about assisted living. So there's assisted living type A. So assisted living type A is the lowest level of assisted living. It's personalized help with daily activities like the bathing, the dressing, medication management, and things like that. They can be very large buildings. They can be 2 and 3 stories. I think the largest one we have here is 7 stories. So it's really like independent living, but hey, here's a little care when you need. That makes sense. The biggie with assisted living type A is you have to be able to exit the building on your own. If there is a fire, you have to be able to get out on your own. So one of the first questions we always ask a family when we meet with them is, can they walk up a flight of stairs? In the state of Texas, if you say, no, I can't walk up a flight of stairs, then more than likely you're not independent or assisted living type A appropriate. There needs to be somebody there to get you out if there's a fire. So that's the biggie. So the pros and cons of assisted living type A is bigger apartments. You've got all the amenities, you've got all the social activities, you've got the care on staff there to help you with your activities of daily living. If something happens at 3:30 in the morning, you've got a call button, or you go down to a concierge and they come up and they send the caregivers up to help you. So you still have your independence, but they're there when you need them. The con is that you could have to move again if the care gets higher. Okay. Assisted living type B is a higher level of care. Again, those are the ones that will get you out of the building. if there's a fire. And so as we move through this pendulum, the caregiver to patient ratio kind of goes down. So the more care you need, the less caregiver to patient ratio. So in a type A, you might have 15 or 20 to 1 residents with 1 caregiver. In a type B, it kind of drops down to about 12 or 9. So, that way they can get to everybody. In a type B, they can also do a lot more care. Usually in a type B, they can do a 2-person transfer. And every community is different. And that's the beauty of our system, is we know every community and what care they can take. But going back to type B, it also includes memory care, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But type B is just smaller. You're going to see a little bit smaller apartments. It's more about the care. So there are type Bs that can do Hoyers. There's type Bs that have 24-hour nursing. There's type Bs that can do 2-person transfer, can do sliding scale diabetes. So there's all different kinds of things. Again, pros is it is month to month. You've got the care that's on staff. So if there's a problem, you're talking to the building, and that's who's running it, whoever's running the building. The cons is a lot of people in that area may need a lot of care. So if you've got one loved one that needs a lot of care and one that is totally independent, I recently helped a family move into assisted living where she still works and he needs a lot of care. So you can have that kind of disparity, that they need a little bit more care than what you perceive somebody else to need. Memory care. So when someone has dementia, Alzheimer's, Lewy body, Parkinson's, there's this sometimes perception that everybody has to go to memory care. And that is not. In the state of Texas, it's not required. If you lived in New Jersey and you received a diagnosis of dementia, your options are to go to memory care. There's no choice. That's their state law. In Texas, it's as long as you're not a threat to yourself or others. So in a memory care, it's a very structured environment. It's all about keeping them socially active, physically active, and keeping them in a routine. One of the things that happens with memory care patients is they have a tendency to get their days and nights mixed up. They start to wander. It's not malicious in intent. That's what happens. And so when it becomes a threat to themselves, maybe they don't understand their own safety requirements, like they're not supposed to get up without somebody helping them, or they start to develop some behaviors, sundowning and things like that, then at that point, it's time to talk about memory care. But it is a very structured environment. The apartment, it's not an apartment per se, it's more like a studio in most cases. There are a few that have 1 bedrooms, but for the most part, they're studios and companion suites and stuff like that. As you move through the continuum of care, you start out with the big apartments and 3 bedrooms and casitas, but then as the care goes up, the size of the rooms and apartments go down and down. And then last but not least, of course, is the old, I take that back. CCRC is a continuing care retirement community. It's a mouthful. We just say life plan. It's the same thing. So some people call them CCRCs, some people call them life plans. So like Westminster, that you'll hear from next week. It's a buy-in community. A lot of them are independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing, all on one campus. The beauty of that is, if you love it, you never have to move. It's all there. The drawback is, you hate Gladys next door, you're stuck with it because that's what you agreed to. So that's just the pros and cons. The biggie there is they do promise to take care of you for the rest of your life. There is a buy-in. It can be substantial. And so a lot of them do offer incentives or ways that you can get that money back to your heirs. But a lot of people don't have a couple $100,000 or $1 million laying around. So some people can't do that. But Westminster, Longhorn Village, what's the other one? Carinthia. well, in New Braunfels, we have Eden Hill, and then in Waco, we've got one. They're beautiful communities, but most of the people that move into them move in independent, and you usually have a period of time you need to be independent for 3 to 5 years. So, you know, that's a lot of people that move into those type of environments are right after retirement, and then they know that they're taken care of for life. So it's got some really great, you know, pros. The con is that, you know, that is one place and you're done, and you'll just move to the different levels. Personally, I mean, I think for some people it's a great option, but everybody's journey is unique. After that, we have residential care homes. So that going back to the assisted living, these are houses that are managed and they are licensed, assisted livings. They can be anywhere from 4 to 16 residents. You got the caregivers on staff 24 hours a day. The beauty of a residential care home is the quality of care. So if you've got somebody who needs a lot of care, caregiver to patient ratio can be all the way as low as 3 to 1. So Mr. Jones says, I need to go to the bathroom. Here comes a caregiver. It's that fast. Whereas in some of the bigger communities, you got to push a button and wait. So residential care homes are licensed by the state of Texas, just like an assisted living. Another beauty to that is most residential care homes are one flat price. So when we move into assisted living, type A or type B, you have your apartment that comes with meals and housekeeping and all that and transportation. And then you have your levels of care, and that's that care that they provide with the caregiver coming in. So those are added together to give you your rent. In a residential care home, it's like, this is the room and this is the cost, and it's just flat feed out. So you don't have to worry about all these price increases as the care rises. The residential care homes can offer a lot more care. Some, like I said, some of them do Hoyers, some of them are ran by nurses, some of them are ran by doctors. So they can do a lot more things. A personal care home, that's the smaller setting. So a personal care home is an unlicensed assisted living with less than 4 residents. So it's 3 or less residents and then a caregiver. The biggie with that is some of them, the caregivers are not awake at night. Some of them they are, but it's always 2 or 3 to 1 caregiver to, you know, patient ratio. So, you know, if Gladys needs to get up at 3:30 in the morning and go to the bathroom, it's usually not a problem. So those are, but they're much smaller. And then last is, of course, nursing home or skilled nursing facility. So nursing home really should be always the last stop. Should always be for those people who have the highest care needs, because you are paying for 24-hour nursing. Oftentimes I talk to families and they're like, well, we need to go to a nursing home. I'm like, okay, tell me about, you know, does he have PICS, ports? Does he have IVs? Does he have pain management? Do they have this? No, it's care. So if it's care, like dressing, bathing, transferring, then you don't need 24-hour nursing. It's when it becomes like, well, he's got to get an IV every day. He's got to get 3 pain management shots a day. You know, she needs wound care and you know, things like that. At that point, then you do need a nurse on premise. And so, you know, that's the biggie to remember with nursing homes. They are, you know, they're more expensive. Okay. And that's because you're paying for that 24-hour nursing. You may also often hear of something called skilled nursing facility. It's the same thing. So basically it's the same type of building, but they've added the rehab. So Medicare will pay for you to go there on rehab. And you usually get 21 days of rehab at 100%. And then after that, it goes down to 80% unless you have start getting down a rabbit hole, unless you have a supplement or a secondary provider like VA. And so a lot of people will go to a skilled nursing facility for rehab and then go back home. So those are kind of all of them. that are out there, and then we can kind of go from there. Just gonna kind of close this off, and then it'll just be open to Q&A. So in closing, I just want to talk about the journey of aging. So time paints us all in a subtle strokes, etching wrinkles like rivers on our maps, turning hair to silver and moonlight. Aging is a shared journey, a slow dance with gravity and shadows. Some days it feels like climbing Mount Everest in flip-flops, right? Everybody, you know, that's the way it feels some days. A test of resilience and acceptance. But on others, it's sun-drenched meadows, it's rich with memories, and it's just quiet with wisdom. Whatever stage you're on, embrace the wrinkles and the laugh, the aches and the sunrises. This human tapestry phrase at the edge of vibrant at the heart, it is a thing of beauty, yours to own and unfold. And yet, when it comes to aging, everyone's doing it. This grand, goofy, sometimes gruesome waltz towards gray hair and wisdom, hopefully, is messy, it's unpredictable, it's harder than most people believe, and or expect, and it's the only ride we get. So let's laugh at the wobbly bits, savor the sunsets, and maybe, just maybe, learn to appreciate the view from the top of the hill, even with our knees complaining the whole way. So, you know, I mean, aging is, you know, when you try to talk to people, right, that are younger, and they're like, how is it? It's tough. So, and that's really all we're here to do at Oasis, is help families through that process. So yeah, any questions that you have specifically about senior living communities, and then if you have any other questions about any other resources. Yes, ma'am.
Would we have a copy of what you're reading from?
I don't. I thought about doing a presentation, but we kind of didn't figure we'd have a big turnout, and we had a great turnout.
Next time you can present it then.
I can, if you want to email, if you have an email, I'll be glad to send you at least the bullet points. I do have a breakdown of like all the different types of senior living that I'll be glad to share with anybody. You can just, yeah, we can email it to you. Talks about the different types. Absolutely.
Are you the poet?
Am I a poet? No.
You didn't write that?
I did a little bit.
I thought maybe you did. That's very nice.
Thanks.
I appreciate your talk. It was very educational. And I have a kind of awkward question, but it's in my mind.
Okay.
I assume you get a commission from the place that you recommend, and that is.
So in our system, we basically base everything on care. Okay. I really don't care about making money all the time, but it does pay for my staff. I'm retired. So yeah, right. So I have a social worker. We've had a nurse on staff. We don't currently have one. We've got advisors and the marketers, but we base everything on care. And if there's a community out there that's right, regardless of that, that's what we're going to do. I've taken people to communities. It doesn't matter if it's the right place for you. That's what matters.
So that's really my question. How you avoid having that influence your.
We base everything on care and what they want. And that's all we care about.
Very client oriented.
Yep. And the business makes money by the communities and the senior industry supporting us. Okay. Yes, sir.
I don't see a website on this.
Oh, it's on the rack cards. It's on everything. I'll be glad to get you my card too.
There's a QR code.
Yeah, it's on the bottom. Visit our website right down here across the bottom in white. On there on the white. And then it's on the bottom of the rack cards.
Oh, thank you.
You bet.
That's
You
just
bet.
a QR code on there.
Yeah, and then on some of the rack cards, they actually have a QR code. You can just scan that.
Our favorite thing to do.
Technology. Well, I heard there's an expert in the room.
There is.
On what?
We thought so. We think so.
Questions about different, yes, sir.
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned, the three big life care communities here in Central Texas, which are Longhorn and Corinthia and Westminster. They all have extremely expensive buy-ins,
Mhm.
depending on the size you get.
Correct.
In Longhorn Village's new wing, to get a two-bedroom place there, it costs you a million a floor
Does,
just to buy in.
yeah.
And then they're gonna cost you probably around 9 or 10 grand a month.
And it depends. I mean, you know, again, what you're buying there is the fact that they're gonna take care of you for life,
Right.
okay?
So
So,
everything's orange
huh?
and everything's orange.
Yeah, especially when one village.
Especially that,
The
yeah.
top of the line in terms of expense and quality. Can you name a few others that are half the cost? For example,
For life plan?
yeah,
For life plan, you can look at Buckner Village, you could look at, but, well, Buckner just closed their skilled nursing, so now technically they're not. Yeah, Eden Hill and New Braunfels, or the new one that's opening in Waco would probably be it. I mean, they're expensive,
There used to be
but
one called
most of them,
Parsons House. That's not.
that's an assisted living and an
That's
independent
assisted.
living. So again, that's not a buy-in.
Okay.
So I guess nobody asked, I'll just say, so people always ask me like, how much does assisted living or independent living cost? I can find you independent living for 1,200. I can find you assisted living starting at 2,500, but it goes all the way to like 10,000. It just really depends where you're at, your care, and things like that. So, yes,
Place on Mesa, Brookwood, is that this,
it's no longer a Brookdale, it's called Juniper Village.
even on Mesa?
Uh-huh.
Even Mesa?
No, it's Brookdale down on.
It used to
Mesa.
be Brookdale. It's
Another
Juniper.
Brookdale.
It's now called Juniper Village.
No,
There's another Brookdale, on
On
Mesa
Mesa.
farther down Northwest Hills.
not 22.
Mhm.
And what is that in the price range, right?
Won't have my computer open, but probably looking at for assisted living, 7, 8.
Thousand? And what about the Westminster? Was that?
That's, so Westminster has changed some things. You can move into assisted living. There is currently a wait list with a much lower buy-in. Independent living, you're looking at, I think their lowest studio buy-in is about $250,000.
Really?
And don't quote me on these because I don't have my computer open. I'm just kind of randomly trying to remember.
You gotta have one minute so you can walk through.
So those are buy-ins, right? Those are buy-ins. So remember, those are ones that will take care of you for life. They're basically committing. So in a CCRC, the interview process is much longer. They'll interview you about your finances and your care, and they're going to make sure that they can meet your care for the rest, hopefully the rest of your life.
Motivation to stay home. Then.
Yeah. Well, but again,
Those are what you need.
again, most people that make the decision to move into a buy-in community, they make it very early in their 50s, 60s, and 70s when they're retiring. You know, I deal with mostly people who recently have had a health event or are at home and starting to struggle, or something has changed, or the caregiver or the loved one is burning out. It happens all the time. Remember that the person who's caring for the other spouse or person is actually the person we worry about the most, because they burn out and then it gets really complicated really fast. You don't have to do a buy-in. That's purely a personal decision. I've got families, that's all they want. They want to do a buy-in. I've also got families that say, no, I don't want to do a buy-in. I want something that's month to month. So we can figure all that out. Go ahead.
If you're retired military and you got the VA benefits, what kind of facilities are out there?
So again, so when we start talking, and that's a great question. So when we start talking about VA, there's 2 different types of VA. Okay. There's VA service connected, where you see their doctors, you use their social workers, maybe everything comes through the VA. In those regards, the only thing in Central Texas is a couple of skilled nursing homes. When we talk about VA aid and attendance, That is like a long-term care policy. If you were in the military during active wartime, you can get that money. I don't know if, did you give him the flyer? That money goes to you to help pay for your care. You can go anywhere. Okay, so it's like your own little long-term care policy. Please, if you know of any veterans or any spouses of widows of veterans, it's money. Less than 5% of the people use it, and they need the care. So if you know of them, please let them know that there is a benefit that will help pay.
I'm a veteran, but not retired.
It does, as long as you were active duty during any wartime.
That was the key. I think I was in when there was no war, but one of the few times in our 250-year history, which was really good at the time. Really not necessarily good now.
So,
Boots on the ground.
right, there was one part of the Vietnam War from 55 to 61 where you needed to be boots on the ground in Vietnam. So so what we would say is, let's look at your DD 214. Because if you have 1 day of active duty, and I have helped a veteran, and he had 1 day of active duty during wartime, and he got the benefit. So let's look at it, because I mean, I think right now for a veteran, it just went up. Those numbers are last year's. For a veteran that doesn't have a spouse that needs care, it's $2,300 a month. I mean, that'll pay a great big chunk of an assisted living. So, okay, yes.
My question is there not a retirement facility for the military in San Antonio or in that?
There is one, it's called the Army Residence. Again, though, it's still private pay.
That's right.
It is not service connected. Again, when you're service connected, the nearest actual community that's covered by the VA is in Georgia.
Oh,
Georgia. So they do have assisted livings and they have CCRCs and all that kind of stuff in the VA, but they're just all spread out.
The VA in Waco is huge.
Mhm.
What is that? What is that? for?
So that's a benefits office. So that is, they have like the doctors and all that there. And then it's the state of Texas hub, or one of the hubs for Texas. So lots of benefits come out of there. All the social workers and all that kind of work out of there.
And the one here in Austin, what is it?
So it's the medical one, it's over on Montopolis, and then there's one in Cedar Park. So those are benefit offices. The one in Cedar Park and the one in Montopolis also does have doctors and social workers. It's just smaller. So, and the one in Waco, the reason it's so huge is it's kind of taking care of that whole Temple, Waco, Killeen, which used to have the base.
How does the Renaissance work for local service?
Renaissance over off of 183. So it's independent living with a type B assisted living. It's a great community, especially independent. It's got great size apartments. Yeah.
But it doesn't go any higher than.
I mean, well, it's a type B assisted living. It just, of course, you've got to move from the independent over to the smaller assisted living. It doesn't have memory care. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if that's this, but as I recall, a friend of mine who was a Renaissance, she told me that she really liked it, that if you go, there's no medical and nursing assistance there.
On the independent side, you're correct, right? So again, independent living, they can. And so when you have communities that have independent living and assisted living, most of those don't have anything on premise, because what their goal is for you to move over to the assisted living. So if you're in independent living, it's okay. So Renaissance, yeah, they probably don't have any providers on premise. That doesn't mean we can't,
Get home health in there.
you can get home health in there, you can get providers in there, but you're gonna be paying that private pay price, like the 4-hour blocks. So again, it really depends. Whatever you're looking for. So if you're, let's say you're looking for someone to come in, help you with bathing, but you can't afford $37 4 hours a day. Okay, let's just say. Then, well, maybe we connect you with a company that'll do a search for you, and they will find students or nursing students or other caregivers that are looking for some extra work. And they'll give you a list of names that you can interview and hire on your own, and then they'll take care of the billing. Okay, so there's, again, everybody's journey is so unique. We can figure it out, you know. There's a lot of resources out there.
Do you know about Soko Village?
Mhm.
Yeah, my husband was there in memory care, and I thought, he was well treated for a modest price.
Yeah. So when, you know, and then that's, I mean, SoCo is in South Austin. It is in assisted living and memory care. It is a type B assisted living. So yeah, and they give good care and they've got a very stable staff. So that's something we always look at when we're doing a tour is, you know, how long has the staff been there? Who's the executive director? Who's the nurse? Things like that. Those are all critical things.
Does anybody else provide the depth of service that Oasis does?
Well, when it comes to communities, I mean, you know, the internet people, you know, placeformomcaring.com, stuff like that. When it comes to all the senior resources here in Central Texas, no, I don't think so. Honestly. Okay.
So the reason, y'all, to kind of go with your question, Henry, or in your answer is, the reason is that you have been in all of these places. You've actually asked those questions to someone's face.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
I think
I've
that
toured every
makes a
community, all,
difference.
so, okay. So between New Braunfels and Waco, there's 413 communities. There are about 118 skilled nursing and about another 30 rehab hospitals. Been in all of them.
Does Sun City have one?
What?
Does Sun City,
Have what?
any?
Oh, it's got independent living, it's got assisted living, it's got skilled nursing, it's got, yeah,
Yeah, it's got my clinic.
yeah,
right
it's got
there.
rehabs.
Rehab
Mhm.
right there.
This is an anecdote which might, help people compare. I had a good friend, and she's still alive, she's about 10 years older than me, and she was planning on going to the one we've been talking about on Mopac here, the road discipline.
Okay.
Freshman.
Mhm.
We've been planning on that for years and years and years. She was extremely careless with her spending. Her family and myself were telling her regularly, you've got to conserve, you can do this and go into that place. Oh yeah, I'll be fine. At the same time to do that, of course, they went and visited and there was no way she could get in.
And that's unfortunate, but that does happen because especially if they've got some mild cognitive impairment. So
Can you repeat the question so the people on the can hear?
So he was talking about that he had a friend who was planning on going into Westminster for many years, but kept spending and spent all their assets and then couldn't go into it because at that time, because of finances and care, they waited too long.
Well, she had children here, they were telling her the same thing I was. And then she had children in San Angelo. So she went out, well, I might as well go visit. She discovered that everything there is half what it is in Austin. She
Wow.
found a wonderful place there.
There's great places everywhere.
We need to remind ourselves that Austin is one of the most expensive places in the state, and that's not the most.
Dallas is still higher. Dallas is still much, especially for senior living. So remember too, Austin is a young, eclectic, you know, city. So really all of your senior living is around Austin, like a big donut. There's very little inside of Austin, downtown Austin. Okay. So except for a few nursing, you know, skilled nursing facilities and stuff like that. There's 3 or 4 or 5 communities, but if you're in central Austin, there's just not a lot. And they're either a very long wait list or expensive.
I noticed across the street from Westminster in the Grove, they're building a.
They're adding.
What, is it apartments? Is it, I don't know what it is.
So there is another community that's coming to that area and they also expanded. So are you talking about the Westminster expansion?
No, I'm talking about across the street from Westminster in the Grove. Facing Westminster is a new building and it's senior living. I don't know what.
I don't know what it is
It's
yet.
not
I'll look and
finished
see.
yet.
I'll look and see.
It's being built.
Yeah.
It's being built.
Yeah, so, yeah, and so two words to kind of keep an ear out for, senior living. Okay, that kind of is a big, huge umbrella. It could be a senior apartment, it could be assisted living, it could be memory care, it could be anything. And then when people say you can age in place, I kind of cringe because in all honesty, I don't know if there's a place that you can age in place, except for maybe a CCRC. But, you know, when you have apartments telling people they can age in place, it just makes me like, yeah, no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we like aging in place.
I know that, but
But there's an interesting thing that connected with that, and what you're saying is, what we tell people about Capital City Village is don't wait too long to join, because one, you won't get to know the community, and two, you won't know what our resources are, which are considerable. And it's the same thing with going to Corinthia or Westminster. We help friends get there out of Capital City Village. And they say, don't wait too long, because if you get there and die in 6 months, you wasted a lot of money and you wasted a lot of time. But you need to go there while you're, wherever you are, when you're not.
you gotta enjoy life.
And
You're supposed to be there to enjoy.
Right.
And if you're waiting too long, the only person that's hurting is yourself.
Right. And so what I'm trying to say is, it's nice for you to bring us these resources so we can make educated decisions.
A related question, you said most of the people you deal with have had a life-changing event or burnout or something like that. I'm sure you've said many times to yourself, why we should call me earlier.
Yeah, but probably one of the hardest
What's
calls
the
I've
best time to call
whenever. I mean, if you're thinking about, like, just an example, if you've got an apartment and you're thinking about renewing your lease, give us a call. If you're alone and you don't have family close by, let's get a plan. That's it. Let's just get a plan in place. Okay. If you've recently been in the hospital, or you or a spouse has recently been in the hospital, give us a call. And then, you know, if you're just struggling or depressed, give us a call. You know, I mean, we're just here to help. I will say, you know, one of the families I recently helped, they just kind of stumbled into a community, and of course the buildings sell themselves. That's what they're there to do, is sell their building. And they went into a community that they probably shouldn't have because of his dementia. And since then, poor guy's had like 5 doctor hospital visits. I mean, it really is important to know everything that's going on and have a plan based on your unique situation. That is what drives me crazy about some of these internet lead generators and stuff like that, because you have $10,000, I'm sending it to everybody. That doesn't do you any good to have all these communities calling you. What you want to know is, what community is what I'm looking for that can meet my care. And that's really what we want to focus on. I would also like to say real quick before I answer those, if you have long-term care policy, if you have a long-term care policy, or you know anybody that has one, I don't know why, but a lot of them, I just don't want to start using that policy. And then they pass away. And that insurance company gets all that money. So I just recently helped a family that didn't activate their policy, and then he passed away within 30 days. So that $500,000 policy that was there for his care, that his poor wife just gave all that care for all those years, went to waste. And it's just sad. Okay, sorry, your question?
I have a question. Let's say I call you, what happens? When I call you?
Well, depending
Can you
on,
repeat the question?
Call you, what do you do?
so either that, I'm going to ask first is, do you want to talk on the phone or do you want to meet in person? Okay, and if you want to meet in person, then I'm going to come to you. If you want to talk on the phone, then we're going to do basically a kind of an intake where I kind of get an idea of what's going on, what are the barriers, And then let's talk a little bit about finances and come up with a budget. Everybody has to have a budget. You have to know what your number is.
Do you write any of this down?
Yeah, we do like a whole recap email and everything. There's always a tipping point where you're spending more for care than you can afford to sustain, right? Like your friend. When that happens, you start burning through cash very, very quickly, and it can get very painful. So I had a lady who decided to discharge from a rehab with 4 hours of home care. We told her she needed 12. We said, you're going to need 12. And she, no, I'm going to do it with 4. Okay. A month later, I get a phone call. This isn't working. And I said, well, how many hours are you getting? 16. So 16 is about 15 to 17,000 a month. It got really expensive really fast for her, and she could not afford that. So again, within a week, we got her moved into an assisted living. We got all that done, and she got the care she needed that she could afford. But the point being is it can get out of hand really fast if you don't have a plan. So again, if you're one of those planners, or you're alone, or your kids are out of state or out of the area, we need to have a plan. We need to know where you want to go for rehab. We need to know where you want to go if you need an assisted living. So we will help you plan all that out.
How often do you update that plan?
With each individual as much as they want to. So I've had people that I've helped move into an assisted living, and then they got great care, and you know, it was maybe after a stroke, and then 6 months later we're going into an independent living. I mean, we keep up with our families as much as we can.
Well, we sign up for people such as yourself. Oh, I forgot the question.
It's okay. So we're you know, we're not like a membership. We don't require us, you know, our thing is to give you the resources and you tell us what you want to do.
How long do you stay with?
As long as it takes, as long as it takes, as long as you need us. Okay, so there, I don't know if I should tell you this, but you know, there's some people in the senior industry that just like to move every year. They just want to meet new people. So I have families that I've literally helped every year, every 2 years. They just like to move to different communities. They like something new. They don't like Betsy. I don't, but yeah. So it just depends. We're going to do whatever we can to help you as long as you want us to help you, you know. And then some people say, hey, we're happy, and they move on. Any other questions?
Time to wrap it up.
All right. So again, nobody ever wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, today's the day we're going to senior living. You know, I know that. Just remember that there are great communities out there. There is a way to have your independence and get the care you need. And if you're at home, that's great. I mean, everybody wants to stay in their home. I get that. But at some point, it could be a tipping point. Okay. And that is, it could get quite expensive quite fast. So why not have all your options? Okay. So that's the beauty of us, is we're going to say, we can bring in this, you can do this, or we can look at these communities, but we're going to let you choose. We're not pushing that.
Isn't the deciding point when you no longer had your mobility to do whatever you want to do? In other words, you just can't drive anymore.
Some people that's a deciding point.
Just saying that's your independence right there.
That's that, yeah. I mean, transportation, meals, housekeeping, social isolation, those are some of the reasons people make the decision to move. Others, it's a health event. You know, they had a fall. They got out of the hospital. They can't go home. They need more care. I will just say 2 things. If you know anybody that has some memory loss, okay, please, if they've got diagnosis with dementia or Alzheimer's, or you just notice some memory loss, make sure they're eating 3 meals a day. Make sure they're staying hydrated. Make sure they're staying physically active. Make sure they're getting social stimulation, because that's really the only thing that's going to stave off that disease. Okay. So if they're not, then we need to talk about it and see if we can get some things around them. And then, last, again, nobody wakes up and says, like, I want to go to senior living today. But if you have a hospitalization, please make sure you have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, the hospital will give you a plan. And it may not be what you want or what you prefer. That's just the way it goes, because they're in a vacuum. Their job is to treat your condition and then move on to the next patient. And if you don't have a plan, they're going to give you. One last thing.
John,
Always remember that
John?
Medicare is like an insurance. That's your insurance. They pay for your medical. Okay. The things that are not covered by Medicare are the dressing, the bathing, the transferring, the incontinence care, the med management, the dementia. Okay. Those things are not covered by Medicare. The only time they cover it is when you're in a rehab or you're in a hospital, because they're treating the medical condition. So when you go home, those become your responsibility.
If you're retired military and have TRICARE, do they cover any of this?
TRICARE has a lot of benefits. Yes, they do offer some home care. They do offer some chronic care management, some other things. So again, we have to distinguish between the two. If you're a veteran and you're seeing their doctor, they're going to assign you a case manager, and that case manager will give you all the benefits that are out there. They'll build ramps for you. They'll do all that. Okay.
Why don't we?
John, could I?
Yeah.
John,
Well, thank you. Everybody have a great day.
Lot of information, you have extra access.